Chaim v'levracha, Chaim Tov Moshav, Chaim v'levracha. We want Mashiach now. Ad Mosai, Ad Mosai, Ad Mosai. L'chaim v'levracha, L'chaim. We want Mashiach. L'chaim v'levracha, L'chaim v'levracha, L'chaim v'levracha, L'chaim, L'chaim v'levracha. Rabbi Yossi, ich hab a shtick. First of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. You see, I'm one-on-one fan. Thank you all for coming and for sitting at the Farbrengen.
And we have upgrade to the seats if they want.
We have upgrade to Mashiach's at Chinuch.
If
anyone wants a seat, there's a seat available.
Upgrade to the seats.
But I want to say this. Everybody say, I feel when you get together at Farbrengen like this, you talk about the Rebbe, you talk about the Rebbe's business. And in today's day and age, darf man reden wegen Chinuch. That's how I feel. There's a Nash, there's Chevre here, there's Bachrim here also, but there's Balabatim also, there's parents. And I feel that the Rebbe soll gesund sein, the Rebbe, his business, in addition, of course, the Rebbe is concerned with the whole world. But as it relates to us, as a Nash, as Chassidim, as Rebbe's Kinderlach, Rebbe's Kinder, is in a Chinuch. Chinuch. Chinuch means how we raise our children. Chinuch means how to raise our children. And every Farbrengen, bli neder, I try to do a sicha on Chinuch. I just think you can't talk about it enough. And Chinuch means, in a sentence, the Rebbe's whole metzius is kinderlach, right? The Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe, the Rebbe came to America, and the Friedrich Rebbe gave him a bunch of jobs. There's a letter from the Rebbe, a letter from our Rebbe, to written to Harav Gringlas in Toshin Dalet. When the Rebbe lost his father in Toshin Dalet Chafov, so people wrote the Rebbe letters of Nicham Avelim. Amongst those people was Rabbi Gringlas, Ol Shol. Harav Menachem Zev Alevi. He wrote the Rebbe a letter. The Rebbe loved Rabbi Gringlas. Rebbe Pashat loved Rabbi Gringlas. No, if you want the chairs got to stay here. You got to move to where the chairs. Okay. The Rebbe loved Rabbi Gringlas. And the Rebbe wrote him a beautiful letter. It's printed in English Kodesh. And the Torah of the letter is, the Rebbe explains to Friedrich Rebbe. The Rebbe explains to Friedrich Rebbe. The Rebbe explains to Rabbi Gringlas that the Friedrich Rebbe gave him 4 shlichus and 4 jobs. And is connected to the Dalad Oisius Yud K Vav K. And each one is an inyan of Tchias HaMesim. The Rebbe lost his father. Rabbi Gringlas was Menachem Ovel. And the Rebbe answers him with a letter, which you can see the letter in his Kodesh, about Tchias HaMesim. I mean, that's the best Nicham Avelim is Tchias HaMesim. And the Rebbe says that the Rebbe, the Shver, the Friedrich Rebbe, gave him 4 shlichus and 4 jobs. And it corresponds to Tchias HaMesim on the 4 levels of the Dalad Eisius of Shem Havaya, Yud K Vav K. And he goes through each Moiset. There's Machane Yisrael. There's Kahas. I think the Yud is Kahas. And then the first Hey is Machane Yisrael. And the Vav is Berkes Nyan Chinuch. And the second Hey is Chaver Kadisha. At the Friedrich Rebbe gave the Rebbe 4 jobs. Kahas is for spreading Chassidus, Pimis HaTeira. Machane Yisrael is an organization which is Mu'utal Ba'arofel. It's in a haze. No one knows exactly what it is. But if you look in the English Kodesh, you can see what Machane Yisrael. Machane Yisrael was an organization that Friedrich Rebbe made for frum people, for Yirei Mishleimim. But Machane Yisrael had one interesting condition, that it was a secret, clandestine. Machane Yisrael in the good days had hundreds of members, but no member knew about anybody else. The only people who knew was the Machane Yisrael was the Rebbe and the Friedrich Rebbe. To be a member of Machane Yisrael, you had to pay dues. But the dues were not money. The dues were acts of kiruv. You had to do 2 a month. From a Yidden, Erlich Yidden, hundreds of them, Charedim, Yirei Mishleimim, not Labavsher. You're talking the 40s now, in the years before the Platim came. Erlich Yidden living in this country, the Friedrich Rebbe came, and they were drawn to the Friedrich Rebbe because the Friedrich Rebbe was the first person who actually believed that America could be changed. America can and they became members of Machane Yisrael. We don't know who they are, but there were hundreds of members of Machane Yisrael during those years who paid dues, Yeder Chodesh. They would send in two things that they did for Afatz Hayadis, to spread Yiddishkeit. So Machane Yisrael was made for frumme Mensch. Ehrliche Jiden. Stiller Heid, kein darf nicht wissen, that they should do good deeds. Noch gewinnt Merkez, ha-Merkez in Yonei Chinuch, which of course is the girls, like I said, that's what I was busy with, Merkez. And this, I mean, to put it in blunt words, is for nicht gefilmer Mensch, for Kinderlach, for nicht gefilmer Mensch. And Chayil HaKadish is for gestorben Menschen bepashtus. And in this beautiful letter, the Rebbe explains what it means, Tchias HaMeisa on the Madrega of Yud, through Limud Achsidus, what it means, Tchias HaMeisa with the letter of Hey, through Machane Yisrael, what it means, Tchias HaMeisa, Madrega of Vov, through HaMerkaz Yonei Chinuch, and what it means, Tchias HaMeisa, Madrega of the second Hey, which is the union of Chayil HaKadish. Anyway, but the point is that the organization that defines the Rebbe more than anything else is Merkaz, Malach, Mem Lamed Ches, Merkaz Yonei Chinuch. Merkaz Yonei Chinuch means Kishmoi Kein Hu Chinuch. Was wird sein mit Kinderlach? Right, we come in Pasha Shlach. Last week in Pasha Shlach, today was by the oil. I hope you had chukas. The Israelis were laying chukas. Chutz ben Ahaza. Excuse me. No, it's chutzladas. But they were laying chukas. Go fight with them. But if I had a little more space, I was so verquetscht, I didn't even have enough yeshes to fight with them about laying chukas that loud. But last week was Shlach. So one of the stories of Pasha Shlach is that they're frumer than Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, that's the story. The Eibishter says, Im Chofetz Bono Avayeh. The Eibishter has Chofetz. He has a desire for the Jewish people. And the Meraglim are saying, the Kinder are going to become frei. It's such an important part of that story. They're worried about the kids. The Meraglim are arguing with Moshe Rabbeinu because they're more concerned. It's like you have these professors that are worried about the frumer people. They're I want to tell you, Lashon Hara, no chatzos, maybe Lashon Hara. I have a special dispensation. I have an aunt who I respect enormously. She's modern Orthodox. I mean, today she's not modern Orthodox. All of her children are little people. But when she married my uncle, she was modern Orthodox. But she's very principled. She's in B'chlam Nish Kamagushim. She's in a tiny house. There's plenty geld. She told me once, if I ever buy another house, a bigger house, it's going to be in Eretz Yisrael. And she lives in this little hole. She's a very, very principled woman. She's a mamish, a person of ikaron, a principle. So when she became a kala to my uncle, this is Tafshin Lamedalet, and it's at 50 Yatzirik, she met us. We spoke English, you understand, with an accent. What? So when she met us, 49 years ago, they got married in Lamedalet, she told my mother, I want my children to be like your children. And but Limud Echol for her was bis Mesiras Nefesh. You have to go to college. Das ein Mensch. Wir gehen nicht mehr in college, aber noch. Wir gehen in college an ein Mensch. So we were Simcha. My sister made a Simcha last Shabbos. So she was there for Shabbos. So she leans across the table and she says to me, my grandchildren are being raised like you were raised. These are misnagdim, but they're going to Altera. Limud Echol Ahid, they're going to Limud Echol to satisfy the government. The Hal B'Shahid, the whole thing is a joke. When her kids were growing up, she made sure they did well. So I said to her, they'll be fine. She says, I know, I'm older now. Ich verstehe schon, als Bob Meises, als Bluff mit Golish Blachem. I know, bis gerecht. So Moshe kommt, darf ich schon die ganze Meise. But in the story of the Meraglim, Moshe Rabbeinu says, we're going to Yisrael, and the Meraglim was screaming, was ist mit den Kindern? Was ist mit den Kindern? What's going to be with the kids? They're going to fry out. What's the answer? You follow the Eibishter, and you follow Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's good. If you don't follow Moshe Rabbeinu, which automatically means you're not following the Eibishter, so you're very fafrumt, you're very mamish moiridik frum, and you're off the beaten path. So the Meraglim are screaming, "What's the time with the Kinder? It's not to me. I can go to that stuff. Ich bin nach Chassidus Sherid. Me, my wife's grandfather was a Marka Schusterman. He was a very sweet Jew, a Sheni Yid gewesen. Wem is a Sheni Yid? I don't mean a Sheni Yid and singing to Pedeshe, even a Sheni Yid. Zaidi Schusterman. So he told me, if I tell him the Maise, the way he told the story was so geschmack, that he was a Shlobener. My grandfather, Matal Schusterman, my wife's grandfather was a Shlobener. And Reb Nissen, who was my other grandfather, also a Shlobener. My wife's both Zaydis was Shlobener. It's Bashkocha Pratas. So, Sigiven a Yid gehesten Rabbi Rechmiel ben Yaminson. One day I'm going to start talking Yiddish and Afsalach Salaman. Enough with the English, huh, Kalman? You know, before the Shir. So, Sigiven a Chassid gehesten Rabbi Rechmiel ben Yaminson. There's Lubavitch is ben Yaminsons. Het is gar kein Kinder. Rabbi Yossi Paltiel hat adaptiert. There his eine Klach, is a born of Chulgov. You understand? Het is gar kein Kinder. Rabbi Yossi was a big Talmud Chacham with a Tomim. He passed away in Tafshin Yudal. There's one photo of him sitting by the Rebbe Farbrengen. He lived in Montreal. He came from the Milchama. He came after the war, like everybody else. All the Echelon and Alexei and Lubavitch. He lived in Montreal. He hastened to Shlobin of. He came Chayel Tafshin Yud. Remember, Zaidi Shustam would tell the story. I heard the story from him more than once. But every time he told the story, if you remember Zaidi Shustam, he lane exactly the same way each time, each trap. So he told stories the same way. He told the story 5 times of a mamish genoi, the same way with all the. He moved his head and the way. He came from Montreal. He came from Chayel. And he took, to quote my grandfather, 2 taxis, that means a car. Took a million Yidden, a very far enough in Zion. It was Tafshin Yud. In my grandfather's book, I forgot what it's called. Behaves to say it? Zaidi Schusterman's book is called what? Something with Zeir Achron. It's a name that's passed for him. He has in the book the Ksav of the Pan. Rechmiel ben Yaminson wrote opinion. And he wrote 1 draft, and a 2nd draft, and a 3rd draft. And Zaidi Schusterman got seichel. He took one of those drafts, and he kept it. And he printed a facsimile of that pan in the Sefer. And he writes, the pigeon is so lebedik that any time anybody can read this pigeon, it's Negei Lamaisa. He took 10 Yidden, und the Wege enough in Zion, from feeding in Rebbe. When Gedaven to Mishtatech, had the Rebbe become on the Nesias. That's what he came here. He was an elder at all. He was older than the Rebbe. So Rabbi Chmiel ben Yaminson went into the Rebbe, and he said to the Rebbe, Meile uns Alte, mir wollen sich an Eize geben. Aber was it sein mit den Kindern? We told the Rebbe. Meile uns Alte. The Rebbe had not yet officially agreed to become the Nesias. Meile uns Alte, us old fed, uns Alte, you understand? We'll figure it out. Aber was hat sein mit den Kindern? And the Rebbe said to him, von den Kindern habe ich sie keinmal nicht abgesagt. I never told the children no. The Kinder, I was the Rebbe from the first minute. The Alte, they got to earn it. Von den Kindern habe ich sie keinmal nicht abgesagt. I never said no. When the Bacherim came to me, the Rebbe told them. I never said no to the Kinder. For the Kinder, so anyway, the story in Chumash in last week's parsha is the Menagel B'mam is very chassidish. Moshe Rabbeinu isn't worried, and they're worried. You understand? Sometimes too tightnish. You understand? If you're too frum, you're not worshiping the Eibishter. You're worshiping what's tightnish. It's tightnish. You understand? Moshe Rabbeinu is like, "We're getting to throw all the now the Ashno Isa," or the Menagel is like, "We're going to have to mitzvahs." Und mit der Mitzvah, Torben sich nicht just, was ist das mit den Kindern? So the Eibishter laughs. He says, even da pagan, I'll have plenty of time, 40 years. I bar him shana, yem la shana. Pigurechem yiplu b'midbar hazeh. Und the Kinder, your children, at your whole revolution, if you worry about your kids, Heim Yevei Shama, V'heim Yerashu. You know, the Rebbe became a Rebbe. This is Lashon Hara. The Rebbe became a Rebbe. And they were a Ribu Tmimim. When the Rebbe became a Rebbe, they were a Ribu Tmimim. I'm talking about Tmimim and Lubavitch. So we became sehr gut lernen. Und sie waren sehr chassidische Jiden. Und sie waren zwischen sehr größer bei der Madrege. And most of them, not all of them, most of them had a very, very hard time with the Rebbe Dufaratz. They had a hard time. And the Rebbe, the Rebbe expected the elder chassidim, the Tmimim, to lead. And if you read the Igros Kodesh, the Rebbe was quite disappointed. The bottom line is, the Rebbe waited a few years. He took Boichik Lach, kleine Kinder, as the Rebbe puts it. And he built his army. There's a letter from the Rebbe. It's not Nigris. This is Lashon Hara Mamish. I'm being Mekayim Lashon Hara. After Chatzos, Kim has a Lashon Hara. So I won't say. Okay, I'll say a name. Reb Nachman Sudak passed away already many years ago. He moved to London in Tafshin Yutes. He was a very Chassidish Bacher. Nachman Sudak was a very Chassidish Bacher. He was something else. And he got married. And you know the story. He wanted the Rebbe to be Mesader Kedushin. And the Rebbe told his Shver, Rebbe Tzin Shemtev, that the Chasna has to be in London. And Rebbe Tzin Shemtev told the Rebbe, I want the Rebbe to be Mesader Kedushin. He called him this Nemenov, and he made him a Shliach to Mesader Kedushin by Nachman Sudak. Maisa Shehoya Ka Hoya. So Reb Nachman Sudak, the Gefan of Shlichus. So first of all, I heard it from him personally, by Farbrengen, that he asked the Rebbe, what's Lichtan? He's going at Shlichus. The Rebbe didn't give him any mandate. The Rebbe told him what to do. Go to London and do everything. So he said to the Rebbe, what should I do? So the Rebbe said, was Lichtan? So the hunderte Sachen said, what you should do? There's so much to do. The Rebbe didn't tell him, do this, do whatever you want. There's so much to do, you do what you wish. That's the nature of Shlichus by the Rebbe was, he sent you to a place, everything is your business. Everything is your achrayis, and you'll do whatever it is that you wish. Anyway, here's a story. I saw with my eyes this letter. The Rebbe told Reb Nachman Sudak, and he can't land upon him. I was sad at Farbrengens of his, but I didn't see it. I love this, but apparently he can't lend him. And the Rebbe told him Nachman Sudak as at Farbrengens or Levi's and Lomdes. He should let people see that I can lend him. So they have Farbrengen edition. Remember, London had a Nash. After the Mulchama, a lot of the Lubavitchers settled in London, including Greise Choshev Chassidim, Tmimim. And he was a shliach. He was a boy. He was a young kid. He was a his excellence fancy. He was 26, 27 years old. He got married. He came to London, and he would make Farbrengen for you. That's Kislev, so there was a certain person who was going to remain nameless. Hashem, I hope he will remain nameless. Who was much older than him. He was older than a Shver Mistame. Who lived in Lubavitch, in good London. He didn't like him. So Reb Nachman would get up to speak, and he would sit in the corner, hack that Chinuch, and played it. He would sit there and make fun of him. In front of him, make fun of him. And the Maisa was, Reb Nachman Sudak was chazering sichas. He wasn't saying his own days. He didn't realize, but he would chazer a sicha and plenty of him. In fact, he would sit there and bujeven, as they say in Yiddish. He would sit in the corner and just be an irritation. And the Rebbe wrote this man a letter. This man was a senior chassid, he was a Tomim. And the Rebbe wrote him a letter. And he writes to him as follows. He says, after the war, there was a Kehillah of Anash in London that included the best of the Tmimim, the best. You've been there now for 10 years more. What do you have? You should have made a cheder. You should have made a yeshiva. You should have made a girls' school. And you did nothing. Habich geschickt a Yingel, the Rebbe writes. I sent a boy that was never in Lubavitch. He wasn't by the Rebbe Rashab. He wasn't by the Rebbe Rayatz. He grew up in Yemei Hadomim. He grew up in the days of blood in Rusland. He didn't have a normal childhood. His whole life is harpat koy. The whole life is leifen von ein Platz auf zweiten. Und kommt nach London und hebt an Ton. Und du stellst ihm Fisslach. You're undermining him. The Rebbe said, I didn't have to send him. The things that he's doing, you should have done. And all the Chavra should have done. And no one put a finger into cold water to do anything. And the Rebbe writes to this man, I think that these words are Dvarim B'Telem. I don't think you're going to change. But I need to make a machor. I need to make a machor. I want you to, so I'm telling you, younger man, this man was older than the Rebbe. Has a chayin yit. You're making fun of his lumdis. You think a Ken is Chinuch Lenin, the Takop, is the Shiurim taking the steps. But I just want you to understand what the deal is. The deal is you've been in London for 10 years, you didn't do squat, gonished. And this boy was at cable who saw nothing. And the Rebbe writes, Lo yiro yemei ha'oyer, Lo yahaya b'labavich, Lo yilo b'b'tem chapim. The Rebbe goes on and on and on and on. And he's working and you are interfering with him. Anyway, I'm digressing. What I want to talk about is as follows. I'm very fortunate. We can Farbrengen, yeah? If I was able to, I would make every Yom of the Pagya Farbrengen in Crown Heights. And Kalman's my shutef. I feel like Crown Heights is the orphan of Lubavitch. It's the orphan that worries about all the orphans in the whole world. If I could, I believe that if I was able to, it's not realistic, but I would say Yud Shvat, I would love to make a Farbrengen in Crown Heights. Kanti v'ayis bracha. But you have to speak what I think the Rebbe wants us to speak. And I feel that when you have a Farbrengen on a day like today, like Gimel Tamuz, you have to speak about what the Rebbe, was the Rebbe gekocht, was the Rebbe leapt. When the Rebbe leapt, the Chinuch von kleine Kinder, the Rebbe's whole metzias is the raising of little children. Chinuch, Hodev and the Kinder. And Rabbi Yossi, and this is not a criticism. It's a hisaydus. Let's put it that way. It's not a criticism. It's a hisaydus that whoever's watching me online, whoever's here presently, we are parents and we have children, and we all want the best for our kids. If we want the best for our kids, we need to raise them. And to raise them means we have to teach them how to be Jews. It's not about how many nice suits they have and how much fun they have. We live in America. America is a meshuggah land. It's a mamash, it's a meshuggah land. People live for entertainment. People live for fun. There are people in this country who are very successful. They made a lot of money, women engaged in machers, and they'll tell you per mole, they'll tell you straight out, I want to be a kid till I'm 70. I don't want to grow up. I don't want to take any achrayas. We live in America, and our whole mitzias is Yedeyas, America, Mechave, Limred Bey. Das ist unser Inyan. Our business is to live in America, to know what America is. Mechave, listen to the story. There's a story of this. That the Rebbe Rashab had a cousin. The Rebbe Rashab had a cousin who was a macher, a shnerson, whatever. I don't know which one it was. Doesn't matter. And this Chaverman fought with the Rebbe Rashab in the meetings when they get the number from Askaris. He was frei. He wasn't frum. And the Rebbe is with him a good oisgekommen. Personally, they got along quite well, but they disagreed in Shita Aksei Achren. This Yid, this Apakadis, this Shnerson, came to Lubavitch to meet the Rebbe Rashab, to debate, whatever it was that they were arguing about. And when he walked out of the Rebbe Rashab, they asked him, "Nu, so what do you say about your cousin, the Rebbe?" So he said, "Yedeya es ha'olam u'mechaven limred be." You know, I know many Rebbes, he says. They're batlonim. They know it's flying. This Rebbe is punktvatutzuch. He understands the world exactly. U'mechaven limred be. His whole metzias is a merid in el maza. So of course, the end of the story was they came to the Rebbe Rashab and said, "What do you got to say about your cousin?" So the Rebbe Rashab said, "As wird gestanden bei Kies Yamsuf und gesehen wie Spaß in der Yam, wollte gesagt, das bloß der starke Wind." He's talking about Apokosas. He says, if my cousin would watch the Yamsuf split, he would say it's the wind. It's not the Abish, it's the wind, the wind. So bloß der starke Wind. Ah? Ich weiß nicht, ich habe nie gesagt keinen Namen, ich weiß nicht.
gewinnen, Rabbi Yossi.
Nu,
Als reingekommen zum Rebbe, ich weiß nicht, zu der Rebbe Rashab, zu der Friedrich Rebbe, welche Zeit ist gewinnen?
ich meine, Menschen sagen nehmen,
Aber
keine
Walter
Weise.
Koslin hat mir gesagt, dass der was redet wegen dem, so he came once to a Farbrengen of one of the Rabbim, or the Rebbe Rashab, or the Rebbe Friedrich Rebbe. Or maybe the Friedrich Rebbe, because he was this later on. And he went to the Rebbe while everyone was singing a niggun, and he said, Rebbe, what's my ticket? So, you know, when someone is asking such a private thing, everyone should go away, right? So everyone came to hear what's the time of the ticket. So you know what the Rebbe told him?
Nu,
Wo nur das Verein der Chassidische Farbrengen
Sollst du sein.
sollst du sich gefunden.
sehr gut, sehr gut, very good, very good. Boy, give me the mic. This is Lubavitch. Yes, we live in America. America is an interesting place. It's Eretz Zov Chol V'Dvash, you understand? It's Mamish. It's Eretz Zov Chol V'Dvash. It's a land that's flowing with milk and honey. But you have people who have a shita, a hashkafa sa'ilam, a philosophy of life that involves being chronic children, babies. I want to have fun. I want to have pleasure. I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to have any hardships. And they build a life based on these Yesodis. But this is not Torah. And this is not Chassidus. Torah Chassidus teaches you get you're born, you grow up, you take responsibility. And the most important responsibility that we have is that the Eibishter gives us children, and we have to raise them that they should be like us. You understand? We are Yedeya Sa'elam U'Mechavet Limed Bey, Amen Halavai. And we have to raise our children, they should be Yedeya Sa'elam U'Mechavet. We have to raise our children to be Jews, not Americans. The difference between a Jew and American, wow, it's unbelievable. Unreal. The Eibishter is so smart, you understand? He has a Yetzer Hara for every situation. You give a person everything in the world, Bagashmias, and you make him a Meshuganer. The Eibishter has a Yetzer Hara for every situation. We don't have to listen to this Yetzer Hara. We have children, and we have to raise them. And we have to raise our children to defy the American values. The American values are all about having things and enjoying life, which is good. But it doesn't define a person, doesn't define a Yid, doesn't define a Chassid. We have to raise our children as Zayin Yidden. And I feel that whenever you have a Farbrengen, you're talking about the Rebbe, you need to talk about Chinuch. So what am I going to say, Colin? What am I going to say about Chinuch?
Let me tell you something.
Okay, tell me two things.
So Rabbi Paltiel is speaking about Chinuch not the first time, right? Yuchvat also.
Ich habe jetzt am Shigas.
No, it's a good Sache.
It's roll school.
Huh?
And many
The
times,
Maimers and the Sikhs, especially for Shachas,
many times, people,
cast line.
all of us, we are trying things with children or with Talmidim, with Mispalelim or whatever, and nicht allemal it's going the way how we are expecting, right? So many times we are being messiahish very fast. Okay, so this is not the way. Okay, so maybe better not to talk to him or bechlal not to approach this, whatever. I want to say a story that happened with my mother and the Rebbe, to see that we have to do, like you are speaking already for a few hours, we can't just ask the Rebbe for things and not to do what the Rebbe wants us to do. We have to be partners. And my mother, Oleo Sholem, was from the Sheikh Chabad in Yerushalayim. She got 2 times in a letter. Betach mishtatefet sie בפעולות in the Sheikh Chabad. The Rebbe wanted her to do פעולות, so he was telling her, I'm sure that you are part of the activities of the Sheikh Chabad in Yerushalayim, so she started to do it. So for many, many years, over 30 years, she did Bikurei Bayis. Like she used to go with a Chavruse, another woman from Anash in Yerushalayim, Sheikh Chabad, every Monday and Wednesday for 2-3 hours in the afternoon in Gilo. Gilo is a non-religious neighborhood. Today, a little more religious, but used to be Mamesh, Kimat not Shem Ritero Mitzvah.
In Yerushalayim.
Yeah, Gilo, like Neve Yaakov, Gilo, these kind of places. And she used to, but at the beginning she had many Balechuvas, maybe like 6-7 families a year. studying, and later on more, later on sending to Chadorim and to Besyankiv or Bischane, whatever. She had a big atzlocha. But then, years later, she felt that she's going sometime for a few weeks to the same family again, and no results. No, they used to welcome her because who doesn't want someone that she knew how to speak, and she had so many stories, and she had an open heart, like to relate to another person. And they used even to buy badats, biscuits, and plastic cups and water. She should have she should not even use for water their glasses over there. Just sit with us. But lemaise, mikveh, Shabbos, kashrus, no. So she says, maybe it's not for me anymore. Maybe the younger ladies should do that, and I will start giving shiurim, what she did many years later. But she was afraid because if the Rebbe was pushing her 2 times to do it, and she's writing letters to the Rebbe, and sometimes she's getting even answers like about the doch. How can she stop? So she did it. Anyway, one of my sisters, I have 2 sisters, not Lubavitch. So one of the sisters, not Lubavitch, she's married to a Chassam Sofer Kehile, younger man. So they asked for 10 Yugalite from Eretz Yisrael to be mechazek a koilel in Vienna from Rabbi Yossi Schwartz. He's a Ungarish Rov in Vienna, and he has a koilel, and he needed Yugalite from Eretz Yisrael to be mechazek. I'm talking, I think, Tovshim Mem Beis or Mem Aleph, something like, or Mem Gimel.
First here, Tzaddik.
Yeah. So my mother was born in Vienna, and she knew also to speak German. And my mother decided she's going to visit them for 2 weeks to help them. It's 3.5 hours flight from Israel to Austria, to Vienna. And my mother was traveling to Vienna, and across the aisle in the aeroplane was sitting a father, a mother, and 2 children. Maybe 2 or 3 children. My mother wanted to start a conversation. She couldn't sit next to another Jew and not to speak for a few hours. My mother used to always tell me, in Yerushalayim, when you want to close the window by night, you have to ask the neighbor to take out his nose. She said, I'm not like that. But if you can help. If you can elevate another person, do it. So, in the olden days, if you remember, if someone wanted to smoke a cigarette in the plane, he used to go to the back of the plane. So the husband, the father, went to smoke a cigarette, and she started a conversation with the wife, with the mother. Anyway, the story is that she was a student. She's from Israel. She was a student in Ben Gurion University in Beersheba. He was a student. He's Jewish. The mother is Jewish. The father is Jewish. And he was a student in Ben Gurion in Beersheba. And they knew each other, and they got married. And she promised him that because he is a Ben Yochid and there is a family business 2 hours away from Vienna, one of the Städtlach dorten, and there is a family business very mutzlachdik, and he is going to help his parents, and he's taking over the business. So 2 years after the chasine, she will go with him to live in Austria. But one child was born maybe 2-3 years after the chasine, then another child. It's already almost 10 years, maybe 7-8 years after the chasine, and he's going maybe 5-6 times a year back and forth from Israel to Vienna, and she's in Israel. Sometimes she goes with him, and he said, listen, you promised me, now we have to live in Vienna. And she says, you're right. And they sent already a container with all the belonging, and now they're going with the suitcases and the kids. So then, meanwhile, the husband comes back, and my mother is talking to them until almost they arrive. And my mother told them, when you live in Israel, even if you are not religious, you don't do Torah mitzvahs, it's not good, but you're always remembering that you are Jewish, because you see people going to shul. Yom Kippur, no cars outside. Used to be, I don't know today, only bicycles in Israel. You have a bar mitzvah of a cousin, you're going to shul, a chasine, you see a chuppah. In Vienna, the only shliach in all Austria was then Rabbi Biderman, the Lelev Rebbe Seinikl, Lubavitcher. He's the first shliach. But 2 hours away from Vienna, maybe they will grow up and they're not going to see a Jew in their life. You have to do 2 things. They should know that they are Jewish. And they ask her, what do you suggest? And she says, I told you 2 things, tefillin and Erev Shabbos Kodesh. And she says, even if it's hard for you to begin with every day tefillin, at least once or twice a week, and then more and more. And he didn't said no, he just said, I don't have tefillin. And she had a packet from Biderman in Yerushalayim to Biderman in Vienna. Like if someone is going, they send a packet. So she had the telephone of Rabbi Biderman and the address. She gave them, and she says, I will do Shabbos candles, but I don't know. It's not like today. Google VN Shabbos candles times. So you need a calendar, a Jewish calendar. Call Rabbi Biderman. He will arrange you to fill in. Probably you have to pay. He will give you a calendar, and that's it. And they agree. When my mother goes down the steps, you remember the steps outside the aeroplane, not in a sleeve that you go in. You have to go outside, raining or whatever. So she goes down the steps. She feels someone is knocking on her shoulders, and she's turning around. She sees an old lady, her husband, and they're going down, and she's knocking on my mother's shoulders. She says, "Please wait for us downstairs, down the steps." My mother is waiting, and she says, "I'm sorry. When you was talking to the couple and the children, we was listening to the whole conversation because you spoke so loud, we could not listen."
The nose in the window.
So we are here from before the war. We was not so religious before the war, but we was going to family simchas. Sometime the feeling if we went to synagogue for any occasion. Rosh Hashanah we used to go, but from the war we never stepped in a synagogue. We never did, and they live in Vienna. And they are already 80-something years old. They want to finish their life with the filling and Shabbos candles. Can we have the number and the address from this rabbi that you gave these guys? They gave. She was there for 2 weeks. She came back and she started again to do mivtzoim in Shchunat Gilo, and she saw that there is no results. And then she wrote to the Rebbe, that's it. She wrote to the Rebbe that she thinks, לפעמים אני מתייאשת מהפעולות. Sometimes I want to give up from the פעולות. And she writes why, and maybe she should start giving shiurim, and then other ladies younger should go to the Bikurei Bais. By the way, she writes to the Rebbe before the end of the letter the whole story that happened on the way to Vienna. So the Rebbe, I don't remember if the Rebbe circled or maybe underlined, but one of these two. The אני מתייאשת, לפעמים אני מתייאשת, so אני מתייאשת, the Rebbe underline, let's say underline, and the Rebbe made a
arrow.
No, arrow כן, אבל גם question mark. אני מתייאשת? The Rebbe made a chetz, an arrow, to the story in the end of the letter, and the Rebbe said, בערך הזה, והרי מתוכן זה דמכתובו סויסרס עצמו. From this part of the letter you are contradicting yourself. So she says, we can't look for results. We have to be busy 24/7 with doing and doing. So therefore, there's no time to look for results. Results are coming. Sometime in Vienna, and you don't even know in Gilo also. But we have to be busy with doing. Chaim.
Last year you said the story of